Howdy, and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Today we're going to be looking at another Matchbox kit. This is the Matchbox kit of the Boeing B-17G Flying Fortress. It's issued in 1979, and it's kit number PK603. I believe this box art is done by Roy Huxley. I don't see a signature on here, which typically you do see. It's a little bit of a kind of a more plain, it's not as action packed as what you normally associate with the Huxley ones. But being that this kit came out in '79, this is I think after they were kind of trying to tone down some of the action and explosions and fire and all that kind of stuff. So just get this serene image of a B-17 flying in the clouds. So not going to get too much into the weeds about the B-17 because I think most everybody here knows a lot about it. Main things on the G model, though, that did change. Of course, you got the chin turret was added to help deal with the head-on attacks that the Luftwaffe was doing on the B-17s. The chin turret originated from the YB-40 project, which was an attempt to make what they call an escort bomber, escort fighter, by adding a bunch of extra guns onto B-17s to escort the squadrons. They'd ride kind of like shotgun, and they wouldn't carry bombs. They just carried a whole bunch of extra guns and extra ammo. And one of the things that they fitted on it was this Bendix chin turret here. And this chin turret actually originated as the belly turret on the early E models, and you also saw this remote controlled periscopically fired or sighted turret also on some of the B-25 Mitchells as well too. So it got modified a little bit and became the nose turret on it. The other things that changed throughout the production, you got a couple of different styles of windows were added to the waist gun position so they wouldn't be exposed to the elements, which certainly made the waist gunners, a lot happier. So you ended up having the guns, going through the window itself instead of having to pull the windows back to open up the waist gun position. There's a couple of different versions of the mountings of these, some with frames, some without frames. This one here showing the late war frameless one. Same thing with the hatch on the radio operator's position. Originally, these would open up and then you'd swing a gun out, and then the late versions, remain closed and had the same kind of a K1 mounting on this window back here. Then eventually they dropped that gun because they found that it really didn't do a whole lot. And the final major difference on the Gs was the tail turrets. This particular type of tail turret was designed or devised by the Modification Center in Cheyenne, Wyoming. It's commonly referred to as a Cheyenne turret. The very first 17s that were converted with this, did actually get them attached at the Cheyenne Modification Center, but this turret was actually incorporated into the production lines of all B-17s eventually. So Boeing, Douglas, and Lockheed Vega all started having the Cheyenne turret added to the tail on it. So those are the main differences on a G from the earlier models. And of course the G is the most produced ones, and early in production they switched from the camouflage ones to the bare metal ones, to save weight and production time. And so then that's where you get the kind of classic image of the sky filled with silver B-17s and B-24s bombing the Third Reich. So let's just get right into the kit then. So across the top here you've got your Matchbox 72nd scale. The older kits used to have a little blurb on here, describing what the action was that was on here, but since there's not really a lot of action, there's not much to describe. So that's gone. We've got more legalese across the bottom. On this side here shows you the three color, that they continued with these kits. So in this case, it's molded in gray, olive drab, and black. You got your kit number here, the P603. And we've got our 79 copyright date. On the end here, we've got different artwork of one of the decal options, which is the aircraft known as second patches. That's really a nice painting there. On this end, same thing again. And we've got our kit number PK603. And on this side here, we've got the 3 different marking schemes that are available. This is an Italian theater aircraft. This is 91st Bomb Group in England. And this one's also an Italian aircraft, or Italian-based aircraft. And nothing on the bottom. It's a plain bottom. And it's a lift top box. I think it's because this is such a large box, large kit, they went to this style of box on it. So we'll pull off the top. See, it's just printed straight onto the cardboard, this kind of glossy printing on there. And we've got our instruction sheet. And it's just printed in black and white at this point, not like some of the earlier ones which had pretty vibrant colors. So we've got our instructions in multiple languages: English, French, German, Italian, Spanish, and Japanese. Got a repeat of the box art in black and white here. This almost looks like a pencil sketch that was done, as the preliminary for the painting. We got specifications on the B-17 here. And this sheet here is what they call the color plan sheet. So you got 4 views of the 3 different decal sets, which is nice. And they've got little spot views here, kind of showing you some details, which is kind of nice. And same thing with this one here. Got some detail stuff to show you where to put decals. And this one is, we'll get into it with the markings in a minute here. But it's not the most accurate. And then this is the assembly sheet here. So we've got color callouts. And these numbers match up to Humbrol paints. Makes it easier for that. And then painting of some of the sub-assemblies, call-outs for colors for those. And so here we've got assembly of your cockpit, which isn't much. A couple of seats, couple of yokes. Top turret, which is just some barrels sticking out the top. A little tub for this guy to sit in. Now there's your chin turret. Looks like the tail turret. And then putting in all the glass pieces and the cockpit deck. And then putting the turrets in place, tail wheel before you assemble the fuselage halves. Then you've got the nose assembly. Got a separate tail assembly. And here's where you got your choice of 2 different turrets. So they actually do give you the Cheyenne turret and the earlier production turret. I'm going to guess that they were thinking the same way they've got the 2 different turrets available by having it as a separate piece from the fuselage. This nose is kind of a little odd having this separated like that, and I think that's because they were probably thinking they could use this for an earlier version of the B-17 without the chin turret, like an E or an F model. Only problem with that is the way that they molded the fuselage is that they did this with the staggered waist gun position, something that also came over from the YB-40. Initial B-17s had the waist gun positions directly opposite of each other, which created problems. You know, the gunners bumping into each other and stuff. So they ported over one of the modifications that they did on the YB-40, which is to stagger the positions, so that way the gunners wouldn't bump into each other. And that's what they did on this kit. They're giving you the staggered waist positions. So you really couldn't turn this into an F model by giving you a different nose, because the staggered waist positions wouldn't be appropriate for an F. So I'm not sure why they separated that, or maybe they designed it that way and then realized, hey, we can't make an F out of this. That's possible. I can't imagine they would go through the effort to then make a whole new fuselage section, but who knows. So there you go with your gun positions, your nose. Landing gear is fairly simple. Not much to the wings. You do have a separate rudder, which is a little odd. All the other control surfaces are fixed, but yet the rudder is a separate piece. Putting on the nose and tail. And then final assembly steps here. You've got your assembling each one of your engines and then attaching those with the top halves of the nacelles. Slapping your wings on. And final step looks like is your superchargers are going on and your DF loop. It's another change from the F model. Once the F model, the DF loop was up under the nose, but once you put the chin turret there, they had to move it further back. A lot of little detail changes that went on, along with all the production block changes that happened as well too. Okay, so that is your instruction sheet. And here are the fancy decals. Still have your little protective film on them. And these Matchbox decals seem to hold up pretty well over time. They're really well made. They're a little thick. Maybe that's why they hold up well. But most of the time when I'm checking out these old 70s kits, there's no yellowing on them. So we've got generic markings that are common to all. So yeah, your USAAF stars, your propeller logos, and then these I think are wing walkway different or delineation markings. And then we've got three separate aircraft here. So this first one here, we'll do this one first. This is, oh wait, no, we'll do this one here. This is second patches, and this is a B-17G 30 DL, and DL stood for Douglas Long Beach. Douglas produced quite a number of B-17s out of the Long Beach facility. So the DL designator at the end of the name is designating the Douglas Long Beach. And you'd see that in this is the stenciling that would go on the nose that would have that as well too. So this aircraft, from what they're showing here, assigned to the 346 Bomb Squadron of the 99th Bomb Group, which was part of the 15th Air Force, and flew out of Tortorella, Italy, and they're saying that's about May 1945. So this aircraft here is serial numbered 42-38201. The tail numbers, when they put the tail numbers on there, they drop the first number for the year and just do the 2 from the 42 year. And so that one was delivered to Denver from Douglas, went to Denver, Colorado on January 13th, 1944. Was then transferred to Lakeland, Florida, February 1st, 44, then to Morrison, February 9th, 44. Then it made its way across the Atlantic and eventually made it to Tortorella, Italy, and was assigned to the 815th Bomb Squadron of the 483rd Bomb Group on March 30th of 44. Next day, it was transferred to the 346 Bomb Squadron of the 99th Bomb Group, and it flew with them. Flew approximately 20 some odd missions. It was a hard luck aircraft. It got hit quite a bit, and hence its name Second Patches. It had a lot of replacement parts coming off of other damaged B-17s that were written off. So you had a tail, outer wing panels, and some other fuselage components, including some doors that came off of some later bare metal aircraft. So the Second Patch's name was very appropriate because it looks like it's made up of patchwork of planes. And so it flew about 20 odd missions. Ultimately, it ended up crashing on takeoff on August 24th of 44. It's on a mission to Pardubice, Czechoslovakia. And it skidded across the PSP, the plank steel, or the pierced steel plank runway matting that would be put on the ground for creating runways, and it ended up crashing into a railway embankment from that. I'm not sure why they put an airfield that close to a railway, but they did. One source shows that two crewmen were killed and 8 returned to duty. Another shows that there were no fatalities. So I'm not sure which one is the accurate one on that. If there were 2 guys killed, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the bombardier and the navigator. If they're sitting up in the nose when this plane plows into a railway embankment, those seem like the guys that probably would get killed. So that's this one here, Second Patches. The paint scheme that they're showing you on here shows you the silver tail, does show the silver door, but what it doesn't show is the silver wing panels. So some of the photographs you can't tell that, but there are a couple of other photographs where you can actually see that these outer wing panels actually were silver. So that's not, they didn't catch that on this one. It did have this kind of cool shark mouth on the nose, and looks like they do represent about the 20 bomb missions on here, which is about as far as it got. So that's that one. Second one is let's see, we'll cover, which one we'll cover next. So this one here, Quit Your Bitchin'. So this was a B-17G 50, also a Douglas built out of Long Beach, so a DL. The serial number on that one is 446544. In this case, they've got the full serial number on there instead of dropping the first number. I guess, and probably because this was a shorter number from the beginning of the 1944 assigned serial number blocks. And so this aircraft was delivered. It's actually the box and the instructions describe it as a G50, when in actuality this aircraft was a G55, still built by Douglas Long Beach, and it was delivered to Hunter Field in September 2nd of 44. It went the North Atlantic route, so it ended up going through Grenier on September 27th, 44, and made it down to Italy and was assigned to the 414th Bomb Squadron with the 97th Bomb Group on October 11th of 44. Completed 34 missions, and was returned to the U.S. To Bradley Field on July 24th of 45. Ended up getting sent to Independence, Missouri on July 26th, 45. And finally, it was sold for scrap in Kingman, Arizona on January 7th of 46. In my research on this, Quit Your Bitchin' was as it says in Quit Your Bitchin' 2, was second aircraft in the squadron with the same name. There was another, a lot of times when you see the 2, it's a replacement of another one. But in this case, I think the crew had actually named it quit your bitching before arriving at the 97th Bomb Group, and it turns out there was another one called Quit Your Bitchin' already in the group, so that's where they added the 2 to it. That first Quit Your Bitchin' ended up getting shot down shortly after this one arrived anyway. There is a book written by one of the crewmen, the tail gunner, of his experiences. And so I'm going to include that in as a link in the video description. There's a good article on it, kind of giving a little shorter history of the crewman's experiences. And then if you're interested in finding out more about it, it looks like the book is available on Amazon. So you can support a veteran. Looks like a self-published book from the way it looks. So finally, that leads us to this one here. This is the one from the 91st Bomb Group, stationed in England. And the box and the instructions list this one as a B-17G 30 DL, again, another Douglas, and assigned to the 322nd Bomb Squadron of the 91st Bomb Group. The 91st is the Memphis Bells Bomb Group, if you are unaware. But the serial number on this is 42107-027, and that's actually a B-17G 35 DL. And it was delivered to Tulsa, Oklahoma, that modification center, on February 1st of 44, went through Grenier on its way to England on February 27th of 44, and was assigned to the 91st Bomb Group, initially to the 401st Bomb Squadron in Bassingbourn on April 7th of 44. At that time, the aircraft was named Anne and carried different nose art. Then it was also assigned to another crew, and that one was named the Bloody Bucket, which had some pretty interesting nose art. And then it was assigned to the 322nd as LGY, and at one point it was changed to LGX. And it was also assigned to the 324th, another squadron within the 91st Bomb Group, and of course they changed the designator to DF for the 324th, but still retained the Y. It had a pretty extensive career. Ultimately, it ended up flying approximately 125 missions, so it's one of the high mission aircraft in the ETO, and it did experience one major incident. It received battle damage on a raid to Dresden on February 14th, 45, which wounded 2 of the crewmen. The aircraft also experienced a forced landing in France after a mission on February 20th of 45. They landed at a Royal Canadian Air Force airfield in France at Dinan, something like that. And it was repaired and sent back to Bassingbourn. And then after VE Day, the aircraft was transferred to the 384th Bomb Group, which was actually part of the 9th Air Force in France. And it was utilized to repatriate displaced persons and POWs from North Africa back to France, and then get sent back to the U.S. This aircraft ended up being salvaged in France by the 9th Air Force on December 31st, 1945. So that's the final demise of that aircraft. And there's actually quite a number of photographs of all of these, so we'll show you those here. Also was able to find some of the crew pictures from this Quit Your Bitchin'. So we'll take a look at those here. Okay, let's take a look at our plastic now. I'll set those aside. I find it interesting that you've got this larger box, and then they put this insert in here to keep the parts from sliding around. So I think this larger box would have been used for maybe a couple of their bigger kits than even this B-17. So I'll set that aside there. So here's our fuselage half. So we've got a little bit thick for the scale. Raised panel lines down the side. Not a lot of extra detail on it. And here's this separate nose piece. These bulged out gun positions are being represented by this lip around them, whereas the window should actually come out to allow for the gun to be able to be fired. So this isn't the most accurate representation of that. As far as our rudder goes, we've got a couple of little things on here to represent fabric covering. And our cowlings are very simplistic. They do have cowl flaps on the outside, but they are very, very simplified. Then our tail gun position is extremely simplified as well too, for both the Cheyenne and the Standard. Interior, there is nothing. And we do have a 79 copyright on here. And here we have our top wings. And these have engraved lines on this side, and they're typical Matchbox, really thick trench-like ones, very simplified. Similar representation of fabric covering on the ailerons here. Same thing with the vertical, or the horizontal stabilizer and the elevators. And here's the part of the nacelles. These have raised lines on them. No details on the insides of these. Here's our bottom half of flying surfaces molded in the gray. And again, we've got really thick engraved lines here. Minimal representation of flaps. Again, this is all very simplified. These intakes are all closed up. They should all be open. Looks like a spot for a landing light. And then nothing on this side. And here we have our black sprue with all the details. So here's our cockpit flight deck. There's a couple of yokes, and got some seats there. Here's the crew, all identical to each other. And here's what they give us for engines. And these are pretty generic, very stylized. There's our propellers. They're okay. There's our superchargers and the ducting associating with it. And that's, again, very simplified. Here's our chin turret, which the chin turret itself didn't have these big gaping holes on the actual in-service aircraft. Because this is facing right into the wind, they actually had these little canvas covers that covered the opening, and then there was a zipper on a little flange that went around the barrel of the gun, and on each end was a zipper, and as the guns would go up and down, it would zip and unzip the cover as the guns were going up and down. So kind of an ingenious way of handling that, and that has zero representation there. And then here's our guns, and our guns are just tubes of various thicknesses. They're not even squared off or anything. And And for the turret guns, you know, it's just, here's our tail guns. It's just barrels, which, okay, that one. But the top turret ones are literally just barrels sticking out. And then here's our landing gear. Very simplified. And we got some donuts for wheels. And there you have it. Here's the tub for the top turret. And here we have our clear pieces. And these are really thick. You can see there. And because of that, they got a lot of severe distortion and kind of yeah, like bubbling, I guess, you know. Really, really poorly done. Like dimples, kind of. Yeah, there is a little bit of framing on the turret. Although this late production turret should have minimal framing, if any. The ball turret doesn't have any framing on it, which it should. There should be some framing on here for the flat piece for the bombardier on the whole blown nose. And you can see all these little dimples and all this stuff, and you know, even the cockpit canopy stuff's just all distorted. There are tiny little holes for those little tubes to go out of on the radio operator and the waist gun, but there's no indication of the mounts or anything like that. So this is a really simplified kit. So there you have it. That is your Matchbox 1/72nd scale B-17. Now, especially, you know, how late this came out in 1979, you had you know, some better options. You know, by this point, you know, Hasegawa had come out with their B-17s, you know, which are light years ahead of this. And it's just a, you know, in some ways, you know, a step up from the Airfix one from the 60s. The Airfix kit does some things a little better than this one, I think. In some ways, this is better than the Revell B-17, you know, from basically 15 years earlier. But there's other areas where this is definitely worse. So kind of a pig in a poke with this for 1979. This kit was only issued one other time, 1983, when they'd switched over to the black box with the orange stripe, you know, hockey stick stripe across the side. And then that's it. You know, Revell did not reissue this once they took over Matchbox, and as far as I can tell, nobody else has issued this molding other than this original 79 and then that 83 one. And I can kind of see why. Although, you know, you do have some other old bad kits that are still being reissued today. You know, they can't see too much interest in today's market, you know, trying to sell this thing out there with so many other B-17 options. But for a nostalgia build, you know, Matchbox is always fun. I'd venture to guess this probably goes together really, really well as Matchbox kit all just seem to kind of fall together. They're really well engineered, just not necessarily the most accurate in their presentations. So that is it for this one. If you have built one of these, yeah, tell us about it in the comments section. And if you've got one of these sitting on your shelf, absolutely take a picture of it, send it in. We can include it in our next viewer build video and let everybody see what this thing looks like built up. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and as always, have yourself a great rest of your day.